Dude, what's with the bandwidth? Network connection, 0 out of 10. That's tough. Josh, why is my internet all messed up on here? Oh, man. Kind of curious why my webcam's not kicking on. Access camera, microphone, camera, FaceTime. Done. Say what? This microphone? That's a Black Friday deal. So I only paid for the whole set. So the boom and everything. It cost me $55. So it was honestly a really good deal. I've had great success with it. It does its job.
So it's up to a MacBook?
Yeah. So this runs down here, connects here because it's a standard USB. Then this anchor piece connects into a converter for the USB-C port that's on Macs. So that way I'm able to run it. And also the ring light is connected to the converter as well right here. So there's that. And then when I record videos, I do. I use my phone. I put my phone up here, and then I plug my phone in with an adapter into the mic straight up. What? You just read what?
I said I already have the tripod.
Oh, you already got the tripod? The tripod for me, like all that came with the ring light itself. The ring light, that whole thing was cheap. That was $14 maybe. Because I got the tripod, the ring light, so all that was one. I went ahead and got this tripod, which ran me, I think, $7. $55 for the whole mic set. Like realistically, I paid out of my own pocket. I paid less than $100 for everything I have. And that's because I'm cheap. I'm a very cheap person. I hate spending money if I don't have to. Why on earth is the freaking internet not working? Well, not the internet. It's just my webcam. Oh, it's frozen on this too. Oh, friend. Oh, interesting. So if you start Microsoft Teams, before you start the streaming service, it freezes up your camera. Huh. Interesting. I don't want to use my MacBook speakers though. Let's see, device settings and microphone. The other nice thing about this mic is the fact that it's just plug and play. Like you don't have to download any drivers or anything along those lines. Literally, you just plug it in and it's good to go, which I do find super helpful. All right, there we go. Okay, so, man, do I have too much running in the background on this thing? Probably, actually. The struggle's real. Oh, let's get rid of Photoshop, because that's probably what's bogging the thing down. The only complaint I really have about this MacBook, is the processor on this is not sufficient for all the software that comes with it. You can't. Right. And realistically, now also this is the MacBook Air. MacBook Pro would be able to handle it a little bit better. Obviously, a Mac itself, the actual tower, would run it a lot better. You just can't. The thing on this one is we have the entire Adobe suite on here. You cannot run a video editing software on here and run other software at the same time. It will overheat it. It will shut it down. So that part's unfortunate. But The amount of teachers who actually use any of that is incredibly low. So without further ado of my random technology jargon for today, let's go ahead and get started. I've got 10 minutes on the clock. So today we're focusing really like as a whole, we're focusing on arguably one of the biggest, I don't even know if you want to call it a mistake, one of the biggest errors the United States ever made. Like, this is one of those days where we're actually going to sit back and go, the United States,
It's a terrible place.
no, dude, you live here. Think about that. The United States screwed up in the 1830s, big time. The United States, as you know, was consistently expanding. That's what westward expansion is all about. But the problem with that is as they continue to expand, it also means that there are other people already there. Specifically, who? Native Americans, very good. If the Native Americans are already there and the United States is expanding, eventually there's going to be some sort of conflict between the two groups because of resources. So today, you're taking a look at Andrew Jackson's legacy when it comes to the Indian Removal Act. There is an introductory video from me that's like 6 minutes long, something like that. Then there is a video that you need to watch in the research tab. It is 16 minutes long. I did watch the whole thing. It is an excellent video because it gives you the perspective, the legal perspective of what the United States did. Here's a crazy thing. The United States is going into the Cherokee Nation and saying, hey, we're going to move you, specifically the state of Georgia. We're going to blame Georgia for this. Georgia says we're going to move you out of our state because we need to expand, okay? Believe it or not, the Cherokee Nation actually challenged the state of Georgia, the government, and took the case all the way to the Supreme Court, all right? That's a big deal. What judge is above the Supreme Court? Which judge? What judge is higher than the Supreme Court in the United States? There is none. Trick question. Okay? Trick question. So no one's above the Supreme. So they are literally the top judicial system. So the Cherokee Nation takes this all the way to Supreme Court and says, hey, they can't move us. We're a sovereign group. We are a nation. Leave us alone. How do you think the Supreme Court reacts to that? Believe it or not, the Supreme Court actually rules in favor of the Cherokee Nation.
Oh, wow.
The Supreme Court comes out and says, no, you're right. Back off. Like, there's no reason Georgia should be messing around with you, right? So the Supreme Court know this. The Supreme Court rules in favor of the Cherokee Nation. That's super important because that means part of your national government said, yeah, you have a valid argument. This is not correct, okay? However, this is where we start to see the ugliness. Even though the Supreme Court said, you're correct, the executive branch, Andrew Jackson, still pushed through and still said, we're moving you either way. Historians argue that 400 Native Americans were killed during this process. Realistically, most historians agree it's over 4,000 that were killed. Most of them were killed in, wait for it, terminology that we should all be aware of, concentration camps.
Oh, come on. Like
Yeah.
the Holocaust?
Yeah, so here's the difference, though. Not that there should be a difference. Like, a camp is still a camp. I mean, let's be real. The difference is with the Holocaust and those concentration camps, there was an intent to kill the people inside those camps, like gas chambers. You guys know those stories. The camps that the Native Americans were in were just holding places for them to start marching to Oklahoma, which is still absolutely unreal. And because of that, yes, a lot of people did end up dying because of disease specifically. Here's the problem with that. So let's talk about the human itself. All right. Josh, are you pretty healthy? All right. Good job, Josh. Proud of you. Attendance probably.
Excuse the interruption. Please get first hour attendance.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, Josh, you're pretty healthy. Josh, when you're old, and I'm talking like 90 years old, Are you going to be as healthy as you are now? Really? Your body's not going to be failing. You're not going to have like diabetes or anything weird like that. There's probably going to be some issues, right?
Well, I knew some, my grandma knew some, so my grandma's missing. I need someone who was like 107.
There's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
But let's focus on the majority. Old people by that age are fragile, right? COVID says yes, right? Now, let's also say, Josh, in this instance, instead of, what are you 14? You're 13? Okay. Now, let's dial Josh back a little bit and let's put him at the age of, I don't know, 1. Okay? He's pretty new to this earth. Congratulations. Does your body have all the built-up immunity at age 1 that you have now? No, right? We know that infants are also at risk for different problems, correct? So we'd say these two groups are at high risk, the really, really young and the really, really old, all right? So the end of a generation and the beginning of a generation. This is where a huge problem happens. So when the Cherokee Nation is being marched across, by the way, they were marched through Missouri, in case you're curious. As the Cherokees were being marched over to Oklahoma, they're doing this in the middle of the winter. We already know this. It's very cold. People are getting sick. There's disease. People are dying, right? Out of the 3 groups of people, the really young, the middle, and the really old, which 2 groups do you think most likely died?
Baby
And the old folks, right? So infants and the elderly died. Here's the problem. That means all the oral traditions of generations before got wiped out. This is beyond the Oregon Trail. This is the Trail of Tears. Oh, the death rate on the Oregon Trail? Also because of disease. 1 in 10 people died. Yeah, that's just because they didn't have medicine. So with the Cherokees, you got the elderly die off, but then at the same time, the infants die off. Well, why is that a problem?
Because new generations to keep like the history alive.
Correct. So you're literally losing the traditions of generations, and you're also losing your future generations, right? So mentally, this is absolutely devastating to the Cherokee Nation because they're losing so many people. The other thing to keep in mind is this. The Cherokee Nation as a whole in Georgia, that's primarily where the nation was. People, something that we forget because we're not taught it, the nation was a full-on civilized nation. We're talking, they had a government, they had currency, they had an economic system, they had printed publications, they had newspapers in multiple languages, okay? This was not the stereotype of what you can see from some old Western movie about there's a bunch of teepees and they're just hanging around. This was a full-on country. And when the United States military marches in, they're literally told you can leave with whatever you have in your physical possession, meaning you're not going back home. You're not getting a bunch of wagons full of stuff and supplies. You're leaving right now. They literally dragged people out of their homes. Okay, so you're losing your generations. You're also losing all your possessions on top of that. And most importantly, obviously, you're losing your nation. You're losing your land that you grew up on, that your family developed. Like all of that, you're losing because somebody else wants it.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm learning to myself is.
This is one of, sadly many times, but this is one of the very important times to recognize that I will gladly say, like as a historian, as a teacher, the United States has done a bunch of freaking amazing stuff. Computers, cell phones, military tactics, like holy cow, electricity, you're welcome. The ice cream cone, that was us, by the way, right? Thank you, St. Louis, 1904 World's Fair. Like we've created a lot of good stuff, but we have got to remember when we look through history and we look at our society for all the good things that we've done. there's also terrible things that we've done as well. And here's the thing, like I'm telling you about the Cherokee Nation and the Trail of Tears right now to give you perspective. I was not taught this in school. Correct. Yes. That gives you the notion, the idea that through time and education, there's an old saying that says winners write the rules, okay? Or winners write the textbooks. Meaning this, those who are superior in conflict are the ones who end up writing the stories. So if you're on top, are you going to write a story that talks about all the bad things you did? No, you're always going to talk about the good things, right? Absolutely. That's why there's no textbooks in this classroom. Because that's what textbooks are. They're glorified about here's all the things we did right, and we ignore the things we did wrong. So these next couple days, you're going to be investigating and taking a thorough, closer look into the Trail of Tears, into the removal of Native American nations inside the United States and the relocation to Oklahoma. All right. So you've got a video, you have a website, you have some questions that you need to keep track of while you're watching and reading. I'm not like assigning any of that. And then you have a project that is due on Saturday at 11:59 p.m. All right. The instructions in the project are very, very clear. You should be used to these kind of projects by now. All right. Yes. Fantastic. Sweet.